Guys.
Well,
Welcome to our health and wealth channel. We're super excited to just chat and talk about everything that's going on with the banking system right now. This is our perspective, but we're bringing it to you real and raw. Take it away.
yeah, nice. Well, things are definitely shifting. Guess now what banks are too big to fail. The banks that are too big to fail are actually failing. And you know, some things happened over the weekend. The Fed Now card is actually live and full effect. And wow, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? Like, it's here now. And a video that's actually has been taken down. That's kind of over the last couple hours. It was very informative from Andy Sheffman and Robert Kiyosaki. Definitely, they've been advocates for what's happening and how to prepare for what's happening. But one significant thing is about Janet Yellen talking about they're only going to backstop banks that are systemically in their interests to keep alive.
It's so scary.
Yeah. So what is that?
What does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean? Like, what happens when that happens?
Well, it's almost, if you think about the Fed Now card and then you think about CBDCs, it's like they got to create an event to scare people, to force, I guess, a voluntary decision to force people to use this new digital currency. So if they create an event and they let one major bank fail, everyone will start moving their money out into another bank, and then they come in as like the white horse, the savior, say, hey, this is why we need central bank digital currencies to be able to monitor, decisions made by commercial banking, to be able to monitor, where the money's being spent, because it's evident that these banks can't manage their portfolios the correct way. So we have to step in and manage them. And boom, what better way to manage it with introducing CBDCs? And everyone goes and starts flocking, and boom, there goes your privacy. There goes everything that you thought you had privacy with, you absolutely don't. And that's where we're at. So I think it's just, it's definitely orchestrated, and there's going to be some type of event. So yeah, that's what's going on, and we're at a point of no return. So what do we do?
Well, I think the plan, though, is for central digital currencies across the globe to most countries be converted to them by the end of 2025. That's my understanding from everything I've read, everything I've saw, all the videos I've watched, and the studying I've done on it. Is we're headed in that direction full force. And to do that, we're too fragmented in our banking when it comes to our banking institutions. You've got too many banks out there. And so what the government needs to do is they're looking to consolidate that, right? It's an elimination of these credit unions, smaller banks that they don't have as much control over. They don't, a lot of times you have some institutions that aren't fully insured. If you think about it, in this case, like companies that have $10 million and only 250,000 of that is FDIC insured. We've seen over $1 trillion leaving the banking institution. So you can imagine what that's doing to the banking institutions right now. When $1 trillion has left people's savings accounts, are putting it into other avenues where they're getting a better return, right? And so you've got some fear there among the government. And so the point is to accelerate that process, is to say, okay, well, we need to start consolidating the banks. We need to basically focus on those who are willing to get on the Fed Now system and who are on board for the central bank digital currency, right? Because a lot of these smaller credit unions, what's the incentive? Why, unless they're forced to. And that's probably going to be how that goes down is there's going to be some force to it. It's like, hey, comply or we're shutting your bank down kind of thing. So I think that's where we're headed. And that's really what Robert Kiyosaki is talking about when he's interviewing Andy, is this is what's going down. This is where we're headed. And I like that he's not like, hey, this isn't about creating fear. This is just about creating preparedness, right? Like, what are we doing to prepare for that? I just watched a video where one of the leaders in Kenya is like, why are we transacting in US dollars when we're trading with our neighbors? And so they're like, we're not going to continue to do that. And basically they're creating a currency in Africa that they can transact one with another. They've got a bank that's on board to do that. They kind of have this central bank that's going to be in charge of it all, and they're going to start transacting in. Right now, that bank is doing the conversions, right? So when they can buy with their own dollars and converse, but eventually they're moving towards a currency that they all are using at the same time. And you've got, like obviously Brazil's part of the BRICS nations, where they're using the yuan right now. Argentina is using the yuan. Mexico applied to be part of the BRICS nations. So you have this like move from going off the dollar because it's too expensive to use the dollar. I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked recently, but since the first time since 2015, the value of the dollar has dropped and is now worth under 17 pesos, right? The trade on that. So
wow.
Yeah, the peso, it's like, that's insane. The peso. Guys, think about this. The peso. I mean, wow. It's here.
But the message that the media and the government portrays is like, hey, we've never been better, right? Like, unemployment numbers are down, GDP is the highest it's ever been. Like they're spitting out all this information that like, hey, our economy is in a great position. But for those of us who like are looking at the behind the scenes, basically the iceberg, right? It's the iceberg type of scenario where it's like most everything's happening underneath the surface. You realize like inflation is out of control, de-dollarization is happening, which is going to cause hyperinflation. Like unemployment numbers are down, but less people are looking for work. It's actually at a higher amount.
And
Obviously
people are paying less taxes, so that's how that's another
less taxes are being paid right now, so that means the government's bringing in less money to pay its bills, so that we're at a tipping point. And it's not a question of if our economy is going to go into a recession. It's more of a when. And when that happens, it's gonna position the government to say, hey, we're from the government, we're here to help, right? Kind of situation. And that will allow them to implement a lot of these things that basically impede on our freedoms, but we see as a godsend, right? We're like, hey, oh great, the government's coming in to help us out, take care of us. We're going into a mad recession, people are losing their jobs, whatever may happen from this situation. There's a lot of speculation that it could be worse than 2008. Who knows at this point. You've got all those things happening under the surface. You've got the attack on cryptocurrency that's happening in the US. While the rest of the world is embracing cryptocurrency, they're fighting against it.
Right.
So I think there's more to the eye than, for those that are a little bit more financially savvy and willing to do the research, than really is at the surface, right? That most people see, the average American sees. And that's really where it becomes really important to be prepared. Like, okay, what can we do to prepare? What are the wealthy doing right now? Because they all have financial advisors that's all they do is spend that 8 hours a day, 24 hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're monitoring the economy because they're taking care of somebody else's money, the good ones anyways.
Right.
So it's what can we do at this point to prepare ourselves? And that's the big question that a lot of people have on their minds.
And I
Anybody
think,
answering those questions?
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing I think for people to prepare themselves is how much can you keep, as far as how much control can you keep over your situation, also eliminating the counterparty risk. Because we see banks failing, that's a counterparty risk. We can't control that. Governments are going to decide to bring in CBDCs, digital currencies. That's a counterparty risk. We can't control that. So the object is to eliminate as much counterparty risk as we possibly can. And really the only asset class that has zero counterparty risk outside of US Treasuries, which I can't understand why the Treasury market even is. I mean, that's a very risky market right now, but it's physical, tangible gold and silver. It has zero counterparty risk. And that just gives you, it gives you that peace of mind. You sleep very well at night to know, okay, I can still have my own barter system, with this stuff here. I can create my own eco economy with this stuff here. And it's real money. So that's kind of the only way people can have really real decisions. And then if they have to use that system, well, you got to have a system that can convert this stuff into whatever that spending instrument's going to be, no matter where you're at in the world. And that's kind of how you have to go about your life if you have to use their system. The other side is that we create communities of barter. We have full sustainable our microeconomy as far as food, water, wealth preservation, shelter. We kind of create our own. That's kind of like what we kind of have to do if we don't want to be locked in that system. Because as you see, Texas is now, making gold and silver legal tender. So there will be areas that would allow, we'll make gold and silver legal tender where we can kind of spend and use our physical gold and silver as we see fit. But that's kind of the solution right now, or you're just going to kind of be in that system. Those are the two options.
What do you say to people, Stephen? Because I'm sure you get a lot of feedback. Other people like, well, when shit hits the fans, I'd rather have a gun and food and water rather than having some, like some coin in my pocket, right? Or gold or silver, what do you usually say to somebody that says that?
That's a great question. I tell them, well, what happens when all the shelves in the downtown area where all the traffic is, when they're all empty? And then, what are you going to do when you got this farmer down the street who understands physical gold and silver, and they're willing to take that for barter for that pallet of eggs or avocados or tomatoes? Because eventually, if it gets to that state, well, the big box retailers are already closing up shop. So, after the shelves are empty, what are you going to do? Well, you got to find somebody around the corner who's a local farmer or who has a supermarket and who has a distribution on food, water, milk, whatever it is we need to survive. They're probably I'm sure they're going to be loaded up to the T as well. And you're not going to just walk into their properties and hey, stick them up here. Give me all you got. I don't think that's going to happen. So you're going to have to find some common ground. Okay, how can I trade? Well, I either got this 1986 or 1967, Buick LeSabre here. That's a classic. I can trade you for one of your cows here. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, but that's kind of how the bartering system works. Or I got an ounce of gold and I'll trade it for one of your cows here, or a couple ounces of gold and I'll trade it for some livestock or some fruits and veggies. That's really how it's going to have to work out. So you still need it for barter if you don't have anything else to barter with. And you're not gonna. It's a lot easier to stack this stuff versus stacking 50 classic cars in your garage, or or
So what you're saying is you're always going to need a medium of exchange.
you're always going to need a medium of exchange, right?
And obviously gold and silver is for thousands of years has been
Yeah.
used as a medium of exchange because the value's already been there, right? You have to go dig it out of the ground to get more of it.
Right. The value is there. The intrinsic value is there. Like you say, it's been a medium of exchange for thousands of years, and I think it will always, and it will go back to that, because like you're saying, some of these countries, well, all of them are moving towards this digital currency, but they're looking to back it by real assets, and one of the number ones is going to be gold or silver or whatever other commodity they do it or they back it by. Well, that's an indicator right there that they're definitely going to use some form of precious metals. It may not be 100%, but they're going to do some type of leverage, whether it's 20, 30, 40% leverage to whatever precious metal, but they're going to do it to try to get some type of valuation and give the public some type of confidence in whatever the new currency is going to be. So it's going to, like we're seeing, people are losing trust in the US dollar. Well, how do you gain trust in the new currency that's going to be presented? Well, hey, this new currency, guys, are going to be presented by physical gold and silver. Okay, all right, I'll be willing to accept that. So yeah, I think it's the trust.
Do you think we'll eventually have just a one world currency? Do you think we're headed in that direction?
That's a good question. I think we are. I think we kind of are, because you got to, one good point you made is that by 2025, like the Bank of International Settlements, but that's saying everyone who's inside the Banking of International Settlement system, whatever central bank that is, they're going to have systems that are compatible to the CBDCs. So I think it's kind of orchestrated. Like they're doing it on purpose on one side, because they can't necessarily be making all these decisions and not know what the end results are going to be. Like they said, inflation was not really existing, and then they said it was transitory, and then all of a sudden now they don't really know what to say. So I think they know the end results, and they're just leading us down this path. And on the other side, it's like they're holding up the white rabbit, but they're like got the other pocket stuff in their hands, or they got their other hand in the cookie jar while they're holding up the white rabbit right here in the room. And it's just like they're distracting people. But I think ultimately they know what they're doing, and they can't see all the movements that are happening globally, knowing that it's happening, and not do something about it. So now on the flip side, it's like, yeah, they're definitely like a part of it. They're in bed, they're orchestrating it. And I truly do believe there's going to be a world reserve currency.
Well, and I think maybe the euro was kind of a testing ground, right? You had multiple nations all using the same currency, and it seemed to work pretty well.
Right.
Which may be why it rolled out that way. And obviously we've had the dollar being the reserve currency of the world for quite a while now, but it'll be interesting to see. I think that's the plan, is to head towards a one world currency, right? Digital currency.
Well, yeah, one world digital currency, right. I mean, even I think even the IMF has some type of pilot program already now that is in place, and even China was actually talking about this not too long ago about, hey, there's a possibility of the IMF's digital currency could be the standard where people have to use the IMF, whatever their new currency is, instead of the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, but now they may come in and say, well, this is the reserve currency when it comes to import and exporting. And the US dollar only be used locally in the country, which still we will get hyperinflation, because now we're so used to every country using our dollars. So if it's just nationalized to us, well, it's going to be some type of, we're going to hit that hyperinflation mark.
We've overprinted by a long shot.
Exactly.
Well, it's something to look to as well as I know the BRICS nations are meeting in August, I believe, right?
Yep.
In
August
in
22nd.
South Africa to determine what's going to be their reserve currency. And a lot of nations are looking at that. A lot of them interested, I think, in being a part of it. As the dollars in the world have been harder to get.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't think people are paying attention. I don't, they're not really alarmed to that. It's so unfortunate because this is serious about what's happening. I don't, it's unbelievable that, people aren't paying attention, or making the moves a lot sooner, I think.
Well, I also don't think that it's not that they're not paying attention. They're overworked. People are working their butts off. They're having to work like side jobs just to make it. And I know just people that I know, when I kind of mention it to them, they're like, I don't even have time to know about that right now. I'm just trying to work, get home, take care of my kids, and just keep functioning. So I think it's crappy that that we're even in that situation, to be honest with you. I think it's sad that we don't have the time to do the research and try to figure out what can we do. So, it is nice to have these YouTube channel and people out there that are spending time doing research and, bringing information to us. But then who do you trust? So that's another situation. So it's nice when you do see somebody on there that's talking and they're bringing you legitimate information. They've been doing their research, and then they bring you some solutions. Because I know just my neighbors, they're just working. We're just working. We're trying to just, by the time they're done, they're tired. They just want to go to bed. They want to make dinner, spend whatever time they have with their kids. They don't really want to spend 3 hours on trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. So, I mean, it's good that you guys are looking into it, and you have some time to be able to do the studies. Derek being in investments, you, Stephen, being in finance. I mean, I haven't even had the luxury to do that either. So to be fair, I feel like the working class is working. They're working while everybody else is doing whatever it is they're doing. So it's nice that you guys are able to share this and bring the info to them, where they can see what, maybe there's some solutions, and we have some that we can put down below. We'll put some links for everybody. But I think that it's sad what's going on out there. And it's like, who do you really trust? I don't know. That's kind of how I've been looking at it too. I look at all this information, and I'm like, who's telling the truth and who's not? And then you have to keep digging and go down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah. And I think the best thing is to really, when you're hearing the same messaging come from different sources that are
people, yeah.
That's the truth that you want to lean towards, because mainstream media, unfortunately, is not putting this out there, and they're not going to. And the only way they report it is when the situation is like dire. It's like
they barely report it. You can't even trust them anymore.
Yeah, you can. And then when they do, they're definitely not going to tell you the truth behind it. And that's another, again, when it comes to the Fed coin or Fed now and CBDCs, it's, you start looking at the, Biden's executive order 14067. If you start looking down in the different articles, it says they can clearly go into your accounts, and they classify for economic development or economic whatever they do. But that's even more of a reason for you to have something that's outside of their system, whether it's business ownership. Pay yourself first, pay yourself first, and then being able to transact outside of that system. And then when you have to use it, you just have to use it. But if you're a W-2, well, guess what? They take their money first. And you don't think that they're going to take more of their money? Like if you say if you have, just say, a parking ticket or you owe taxes, well, we're just going to go ahead and take it out now because this is what you owe. And, taxes are low right now, so it's for economic development. So you guys opted in for this. Don't you remember? No, I don't remember that. Oh, yeah, you did. Remember you signed that acknowledgement in the bank when the bank switched over their system. They say you had to acknowledge in order to get your deposit out. Oh, yeah, I think I did something. I didn't even read it. Yeah, well, that was your authorization. And so there you go. I mean, Like, it can come in a form of an upgrade, the form of an upgrade. Hey, Apple Pay could be upgrading their services, but now it's connected to Fed now, and we need you to go ahead and authorize this and accept the terms. And it can be in that form. So people, again, they're going to create an event to where people are going to be forced because they're going to be so frightened, kind of the same thing they did with the pandemic, with the vaccinations. They created something to where people were forced. And then if you didn't agree, then you had these major left wingers and, these major individuals who were like, hey, you know what? You were ostracized if you did not go along with the vaccination. So it's like, wow, what it's going to happen now? Like, they're going to create this event, let one major bank fail to wake everyone like, whoa, what's going on here? And then you're going to fastly, make the decision, or quickly make the decision of going with this whole central bank digital currency. But I went as a W-2, I think that's going to be a big deal. If you don't want them to have full control, I think that you're going to have something on the side to give yourself a fighting chance. If you don't, then I don't know. It's going to be a challenge here. Next couple weeks, next couple months, next year. We got what, 1.5 years? We got a year and a half until 2025. It's coming. It's really coming. So.
We need to prepare for sure. Everybody needs to start thinking about it. Like you said, pay yourself first. Try to find ways to transact outside the banking system. Get yourself some gold and silver. Make sure you have extra food. All the things that we had to do during the 3 years that we were in lockdown. It's like you have to make sure you have that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, hey guys, thanks so much for being on again, and we'll see you guys next week. And for anybody that is interested in just figuring out how they want to prepare, we've got some links that we're going to put below. You can go below and hit the like button, the subscribe, and then we'll put some links down there so that you can have some solutions. All right, we will see you guys next time. Take care.